Cimoooooooo! What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today I'm bringing to you my top 5 cards coming out of Chaos Impact. Now I know for me personally, Chaos Impact isn't the most appealing set because there is a lot of bulk package in here and not really too many things desirable from a competitive standpoint, but depending on the type of deck that you're playing, there are some pretty decent cards in here, and that's why I make these top 5 videos for you guys, so that way I can sort and sift through all the cards myself so you don't have to and just know what gems to chase after. Now, before I get into it, I do want to say that if you're going to be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area on November 23rd and 24th, we have Pro Play Tour Dallas coming at you guys. $2,000 prize pool event, only $20 to enter, and of course I'll be there doing live stream commentary coverage for the event. So links are in the description if you want to pre-register, and I hope to see you guys there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Kicking things off with number 5, we have a card that a lot of you guys might not have actually even heard of coming out of this set, and that is going to be Gizmek Yada. Now, Gizmek Yada is a light level 5 machine monster with an effect that reads, you can special summon this card from your hand by tributing one normal summon monster. You can only use each of the following effects of Gizmek Yada, the Gleaming Vanguard, once per turn. During your main phase, if this card was normal or special summon this turn, you can immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon one monster. If you do, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn, except monsters with the same original type as that monster. Also, if this card is special summoned by its own effect is tributed, gain 2,050 life points. So you might look at this card and think, okay, it's like an extra normal summon enabler, but when you look at light level 5 machine, what does that signal? Well, that signals Cyber Dragon support, of course. Now, the nice thing about this card is that Gizmek Yada is actually a nice extender for Cyber Dragon. It happens to be searchable because it's a machine. It just has a lot of really good things going for it. Now, it allows the Cyber Dragon deck to kind of extend beyond what it was able to previously. Now, it did lose the Orcus engine because Mermaid is now banned, and that was kind of at the point where Cyber Dragon was at the tier 1 status, but now that Mermaid's banned, I think it's back down to like tier 2 or roguish at best, but that doesn't mean the deck is dead by any means. You're just not going to see it nearly as prolifically as you did before. Gizmek Yada is a pretty interesting card, being able to give you an extra level 5 for some rank 5 fodder going into your Nova and then soon to be Infinity, different things like that. The card's pretty decent, not to mention it has a life point gaining effect, which is very easy to trigger and could potentially steal some games going into time at the higher tiers of competitive play. So for those reasons, that's why I gave Gizmek Yada my number 5 slot. But coming in at number 4, we actually have a tie, as a matter of fact, because both of these cards kind of go together, but they don't have to be used together to be good, and those two cards are going to be Striker Dragon as well as Starliege Dragon Cypher. Now, Striker Dragon is a Link 1 monster with an effect that reads, if this card is Link summoned, you can add one Boot Sector launch from your deck to your hand. You can target one face-up monster you control and one rocket monster in your graveyard, destroy that monster on the field, and if you do, add the other monster from your graveyard to your hand. You can only use each effect of Striker Dragon once per turn, and of course it only requires one level 4 or lower dragon. And speaking of a level 4 or lower dragon, that's where Starliege Dragon Cypher comes into play. Now this card has an effect that reads, you can send any number of dragon monsters from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard, add one dragon monster from your deck to your hand, whose levels equal the total original levels of those monsters sent to the graveyard. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one level 8 light or dark dragon monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use each effect of Starliege Cypher once per turn. So the thing is, when it comes to both of these cards, both of these were very key pieces of the Dragon Link deck that saw lots of play in the OCG, but obviously that's the OCG, so it's a completely different story here, not to mention because Gumblar is banned and now Agripane has been newly banned as well. We also have Eclipse Wyvern banned and a bunch of other things that the OCG doesn't have, but the reason I wanted to put both of these cards on here is that both of these cards are very good. They help bolster not only the Rocket archetype when it comes to Striker Dragon, but just dragons as a whole when it comes to Starliege Cypher, simply because it can tutor for literally any dragon in the game, and not to mention you can recur dragons from your graveyard, like say, oh, I don't know, Chaos Dragon Legionnaire, like that seems pretty good. It's got the Chaos typing, it's got a decent stat line, like the cards are very good overall. And the thing is, if there is some sort of Dragon Link deck that does exist, which I still think there is, you just don't have the power of Agripane to just kind of reinforce that, these cards are going to be very crucial components of that deck. But the reason why they're so low on this list is because I haven't seen that deck actually be fleshed out and actually see its potential. Like I said, I think it's there, but the problem is it going to be able to compete in this current metagame that we have? So for those reasons, that's why I gave both Striker Dragon and Starliege Cypher my number 4 slot. slot. Now coming in at number 3, if you ever wanted to see Salamangreat Gazelle and Salamangreat Foxy crossbreed and actually make a brand new card all on their own for a specific archetype, well, let me go ahead and introduce you to Marincess Blue Tang. Marincess Blue Tang has an effect that reads, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can send one Marincess monster from your deck to the graveyard, except another copy of itself. If this card is sent to the graveyard as material for the link summon of a water monster, you can excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you do, you can add one excavated Marincess card to your hand, also shuffle the rest into your deck. You can only use each effect of Marincess Blue Tang once per turn. This card just kind of does it all, right? I mean, imagine if you took Blue Tang and put it into like any other archetype in the game, this card would be absurd. The fact that you can use both effects in the same turn, the fact that it helps kind of fill your grave with cards to recur, as well as digging you in your deck for more cards, so like it pluses you, like this card is just nuts. Now the thing is, and the reason why it's only at number 3 on my list, is that even with a card this powerful, I'm not sure Marincess is going to be able to make it into the top tiers of competitive play. At the very most, it might be like Rogue or tier 2, but it might just have like a one-off performance like plenty of other decks have had in the past. The thing is, the deck has the consistency, the deck has the recursion, but I don't think it has the power to be able to kind of make it and compete with the other top tier contenders, at least at the current moment. Obviously, when we get a ban list down in January of 2020, things can be completely different, and Marincess might be the best deck. Who knows? Thing is though, I think for the current moment, I think a 1-card Link 4 that turns into like a pseudo towers type of effect is good, but I don't think it's good enough when you look at it relatively in the context of our current metagame. But the card is incredible. I honestly love the design, and I wish they just designed more cards like this. Maybe that might be a little bit too broken, but for those reasons, that's why I gave Blue Tang my number 3 slot. But coming in at number 2, we have what's probably the Salamangreat boss monster, and that's Salamangreat Pyro Phoenix. So Pyro Phoenix is a Link 4 that requires 2+ fire monsters with an effect that reads as follows. If this card is link summoned using Salamangreat Pyro Phoenix as material, you can destroy all cards your opponent controls. You can only use each of the following effects of Salamangreat Pyro Phoenix once per turn. You can target one Link monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your opponent's field. If a Link monster or monsters is special summoned to your opponent's field, except during the damage step, you can target one of those monsters, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack. So Pyro Phoenix on paper seems like absurd, right? The fact that if you reincarnation Link summon it or use it as material to summon another copy of itself, which is very easy with Salamangreat Sanctuary, the fact that it nukes all cards on your opponent's field, like that's crazy, right? But the thing is, again, it's all in a matter of context. If you look at what the best decks are at the moment, you have stuff like Thunder Dragon, which plays Colossus, which can't be destroyed by card effects, so that really doesn't matter. You've got Orcus, which plays Dingirsu, which protects everything from being destroyed, and then you have Salamangreat, which plays Balinx, which also protects all the Salamangreat cards from being destroyed. The thing is, destructive removal, as crazy as Pyro Phoenix is never really prime. It hasn't really been prime, I think, since like maybe Zodiac format, when people were main decking multiple board wipes like Dark Hole, Raigeki, and Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, because in that specific metagame, destroying the field in the form of a board wipe was actually very good. But now we're at the point where there's all these decks that either float, or they have protection from destruction, or they plus if they get destroyed, that it really isn't as good as it seems. But it's still going to be something that's probably going to be included in Salamander decks nonetheless, because if you go up against rogue decks or decks that don't really have any way to protect their board, which is a lot of decks by the way, just depends on the metagame, then Pyro Phoenix is going to be an absolute blowout, and you have access to it in your extra deck. You're not waiting till like games 2 or 3 to side deck it like you would something like, let's say, Evenly Matched. Obviously it's a different card, but I think you understand the comparison I'm trying to make here. And not to mention, Pyro Phoenix has the ability to burn your opponent, which, like we talked about with our Gizmek Yada, could come up at the competitive level if you're playing under a time limit with the new end of match procedure. I should really stop calling it new because it's been out for a while now, but regardless, Pyro Phoenix, a very, very strong card. It should not be underestimated, but I think its current place in the metagame is that the reason why it's in my number 2 slot is because the deck is going to see a lot of representation, that being Salamangreat, but you might not see as much Pyro Phoenix because depending on what matchup you're playing, you may not want to summon it. But that's gonna bring us to my number 1 card coming out of Chaos Impact, and if you haven't already figured it out, it's IP Masquerena. Oh boy, is this card crazy. So IP Masquerena is a Link 2 that requires 2 non-Link monsters as material, and has an effect that reads, during your opponent's main phase, you can, as a quick effect, immediately after this effect resolves, Link summon 1 Link monster using materials you control, including this card. You can only use this effect of IP Masquerena once per turn. A link monster that uses this card as material cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. It's really funny, we just talked about Pyro Phoenix and cards that can't be destroyed by card effects, and now we're talking about Masquerena. Masquerena, one of the reasons why I love it first off is that you can play this in any deck. As long as you basically are playing a deck that plays monsters, you can make Masquerena in some way. And the thing is, when it comes to Masquerena, why she's so powerful is that it's the link monster equivalent to something like Formula Synchron. And this is crazy because this means you can use cards during your opponent's turn and have another form of interaction. So for instance, one of the big cards you can summon here is like Nightmare Unicorn. So her, Masquerena, being a link 2, if you link off with her and any other monster that's 3 link worth of material, you can summon Nightmare Unicorn on your opponent's turn, pitch a card, and shuffle something on their field back into the deck. That's really, really good to be able to have that type of disruption on your opponent's turn. Not to mention, you've got plenty of other cards like Topologic Trisbania, Topologic Bomber Dragon, and if you have a way to like special summon a monster in addition to being able to link into them, then that's absurd as well, because then you can not only do that, but trigger the Trisbania or the Bomber Dragon in addition to that. This card just has so many useful applications that it might honestly become a staple in a lot of extra decks moving forward. I can't believe this card is only an ultra rare. I guess it is the prismatic secret rare as well, but the thing is, this is my opinion, by far is the best card in Chaos Impact. If there's any card you're going to see a lot of moving forward, it's going to be this, because this card is absolutely ridiculous. So guys, that's going to do it for my video. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about your top 5 picks coming out of Chaos Impact. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content, and if you found this video helpful, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member, because just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.